Please vote. Councillor Bicker. Motion carried 7-0. May I have the land acknowledgement, please? Councillor Thompson.
We would like to respectfully acknowledge that Quispamsis exists on the traditional territory of the Wolastoqey, Maliseet, and Micmac people, whose ancestors, along with the Passamaquoddy tribes, signed peace and friendship treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s. We would like to take this moment to pay respect to the elders, past and present, and the descendants of the traditional territory. And may we remind ourselves of the important work we have before us tonight. May we make good decisions without prejudice or bias, and always in the best interest of our community, which we are here to serve.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I have a few messages tonight. I hope everyone enjoyed their long weekend for Thanksgiving and that you are now enjoying the leaves. But how about October baseball? Blue Jays are on a hot streak, so let's hope that they keep on going. So let's go, Blue Jays. Thank you, everyone who attended our open house gatherings last week at Quispamsis Town Hall. It was wonderful to see and interact with so many people, and we learned more about the potential futures of Gondola Point Road and the Hampton Road. These are two very important projects for our community. If you missed the open houses or just wanted to learn more information, please visit the Have Your Say page on our website, quispamsis.ca, for links to each of these projects. There are design concepts and other documents for Hampton Road and a public survey for Gondola Point Road. I encourage you to have a look and offer feedback where you can. The 2026 budget process began last week with staff presenting its proposed general capital and utility capital budgets to Council. We had a good discussion and lots of questions as we look ahead to the next fiscal year. Proposed operating budgets will be presented to Council on October 30th. Budget discussions are open to the public. If you'd like to review last week's capital budget presentations, you can find them on our YouTube channel by going to the Council Meetings page on our website, quispamsis.ca, and clicking the Watch Live Meetings button. I had the pleasure of kayaking along with our consultants at Ritchie Lake yesterday morning as they conducted water testing. This is part of the work being done by the new Ritchie Lake Community Advisory Committee. The tests will determine the overall chemistry of the lake, bacteria levels, and more. We will continue to keep you informed as we examine ways to protect and improve the condition of the lake. I was pleased to meet recently with Secretary of State for Canada Revenue and Financial Institutions, Wayne Long, our own St. John Kennebecasis MP. I meet with Secretary Long often to further develop a relationship between our town and its federal representative. We continue to discuss infrastructure and other needs in our community that can benefit from federal funding. October is Occupational Therapy Month, a time to recognize the important work of occupational therapists. These dedicated professionals help people of all ages to do things that matter most, whether it's recovering from an illness or injury, supporting children in school, helping older adults live safely at home, or addressing mental health and chronic conditions. Their work makes a real difference in building a healthier, more inclusive, and stronger community. On behalf of Quispamsis, we want to thank occupational therapists for the impact they have every day, and we celebrate their contributions this month. On Friday, I will be attending the Sunny Side Up fundraising breakfast for Sophia Recovery Center. The center is a safe and supportive welcoming space for women seeking improved substance use health. It provides a very important service to our region. Also on Friday, we are hosting our Dark in the Park Halloween event at the Arts and Culture Park. Enjoy a spooky Tales stroll with storyteller David Goss, social time with friends and family, and an onstage costume parade with a random draw for 3 prizes. The event starts at 7 p.m. and runs for about an hour. While you're there, check out all the ghosts and goblins in our Halloween display. And be sure to enjoy Halloween on the 31st, always a frightfully fun day in Quispamsis. As we enter late October, we are seeing fewer hours of daylight, with darkness upon us early in the morning and early evening. Please use extra caution on the roads as more pedestrians may be outside on the way to school or different events and activities throughout the community. And finally, one more quick reminder. In Quispamsis, many of us interact with wildlife on a daily basis, including deer on our front lawns or in front of our vehicles, and ducks and geese at our parks and waterways. While it may be tempting to toss some apples or breadcrumbs to animals in need, please do not feed the wildlife in our community. Not only is it dangerous with the potential to attract other animals or ticks to our neighborhoods, it's also illegal to feed deer under the town's Animal Control Bylaw number 052. Violators can face a fine if found to be in contravention of the bylaw. Thank you for understanding that, and we will move forward now with tonight's agenda. Looking for a disclosure of interest. Seeing that there are none, we will go on to presentations. This evening, we're going to hear from Mary Ellen McAuliffe on facility allocation policy, which is under the direction of our Community Services Director. And we will go now. She is in virtual attendance. And Tim, if you wouldn't mind bringing Mary Ellen to our screens. Thank you. Welcome, Mary Ellen.
Thank you so much, Your Worship. Good evening, everybody. I'm sure you're familiar with my face by now, coming in virtually to speak with you all about recreation in Quispamsis, as well as my accompanying cough that is still here. But today I'm very pleased to be bringing forward the policy for consideration of council. It's been a process to get to this point, as many of us know, and we've spoken with so many community members, staff members, council members, and organizations across Quispamsis, and we're very excited to be at this stage now and be here at the time to say, does council approve of moving this policy forward? And I would really like to highlight as we go into this as well that this is, as much as it is a change, it's also a beginning for recreation in Quispamsis. So it's the beginning of having the community voice inside of how recreation is allocated across the town. And so I think with that in mind, folks that have had the time to go through the policy will see that there's a continued opportunity to refine this policy. So it's not something that needs to be feared or something that needs to cause alarm. It's actually the start of something that will be really great for the community, and so I'm very excited to be bringing it forward today. And so I hope with that everybody has had the opportunity to have their input, ask questions, but again, there will be continued opportunity to engage with this policy. And so at this point, we're looking forward to having an opportunity to have staff to take it, begin adopting it. And of course, the timeline for that will take a bit of time. And so at this point now, we're looking forward to having council's thoughts on moving forward with the consideration of adoption of the policy.
Thank you very much. Would you like me to turn it over to council now for any of their input? Thank you, Mary Ellen. I will open up the mics now for council to have their say. So first off, we have Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mary Ellen. I did review it, and lots of good kind of tweaks to it since the last time you were here, so thank you very much for that. I do still have 2 questions, so I'm just hoping in terms of just the rationale, maybe you can clarify it for me. I do appreciate that, we need a policy just to make sure that in terms of decision making, and consistency is kind of at the forefront. One thing that I had brought up last time is regards to 5.3, the returning user allocation. And it looks like we originally had planned on giving 4 to 6 weeks notice, based on the seasonal calendar. And I'm just wondering how that will look, because I do worry about, talking to some of the community groups. They brought up concerns around having enough time for planning. And again, because it's the seasonal calendar, I'm not sure what that looks like. So I'll ask my 2 questions, and perhaps you can then just clarify those things for me, because I do worry that these leagues do need time to plan, and I'm just wondering if the 4 weeks will give them enough time to do that. And my other question is around the allocation cap. Let me see, on page 8. And, the elephant in the room, of course, is probably the largest youth sports teams, which is KV Minor Hockey. So I'll specifically mention them, because when I read the policy, the last thing we want is for someone to look at the policy and then, instead of kind of abiding with the suggestions in the policy, they look for ways to work around the policy. And when I read this, I worry that right now, of course, KV Minor Hockey is significantly larger than the rest of the youth sports teams that are out there. And, our goal is to get to 50% usage, but I kind of worry that we're not thinking about proportional representation when it comes to how do you compare an organization with, I don't know the numbers, 800 children versus an organization with 100 children, and how do you make sure that that's fair when we're talking about numbers? And I don't know if a percentage versus a different formula would work better to make sure that, we're not kind of limiting one group because of their size. Because I think potentially what would happen is, I know if it was me and I was running KV Minor Hockey, I'd end up saying, I'm going to have a girls minor hockey, I'm going to have a boys minor hockey, I'm going to have neurodivergent minor hockey. And then all of a sudden, you're playing in the same field as some of the smaller groups. And then you're not being penalized for being so large. And I just wonder if you can speak to that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Sure. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. So in terms of the 4 to 6 weeks, we've put that in importantly as an at least statement. So over the course of the rollout of this, I suspect that it will be amongst staff that will decide, is there an opportunity to make that a larger window? I think at the end of the day, everybody wants to give everyone enough time. And so what we've put in here is that this is sort of the at least window. But that doesn't mean necessarily that it will always be 4 to 6 weeks. It may be 10, it may be 12. And I think, in a portion of deciding that, or in the mind frame of deciding that time frame, was really looking at what time frame it often does take, and when it's commonly happening. And I think that's where we kind of landed with staff based on the historical amounts of time and such. And so with those two combined, I think what we'll start to see is, as it gets implemented, a more natural cadence. And in addition to this, I will say that an element of what we're exploring is also technology adoption. And so with technology adoption becomes a much more streamlined process for things like registrations to occur. And that can also allow more lead up time for staff to open and have it open sooner. And so I think all that to say, the 4 to 6 weeks is a guideline at sort of a minimum time frame, but that's not to say that that will be what in implementation it absolutely looks like. They may have more time. So I would just encourage any groups that are concerned about that timeline to bring it forward sooner rather than later. And if they know what they're looking for, there's always the opportunity to kind of make note of that. In terms of the proportional representation piece, I think that there's a natural element that there will be people that always look at policies and find ways to kind of circumvent them. And at some point, what we also look at is how much energy does that take from an organization. And it's not simple to run an organization, and there's lots of work and volunteer time, sometimes staff time, that goes into making everything possible. And so I think what we want to ideally see is as many as possible to kind of play in the zone of the rules. And if it's not working, to have that opportunity with the committee to review and reassess, rather than kind of taking it all the way to the worst case scenario of having to split or recreate multiple organizations as a way to kind of come around here. What we're looking at is really, this is a starting point. Um, Most policies tend to have a break point as well inside of them. And that's why we build in that continuous review to say, one, does the policy need further tweaking? Or two, does the policy need further tweaking depending on which direction you look at that in? And does the policy need tweaking to be more strict, or does the policy need tweaking to be more inclusive? And that will come a lot through the data of usage. So again, I really would encourage groups to look at this as a year of trial within the policy and bring those voices to the committee when it becomes time to look at it on that annual basis and see if there's other things that need to be built in before going to the lengths to create kind of additional organizations to kind of get in where possible. That would be my thought. Now, that being said, again, that's part of why that annual review is in there as well.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Squire, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the update. I have three quick questions. Number one is how you came up with the age of 65 for a senior. A lot of people will say 55 plus, 60 plus, but I see you've opted for age 65 as a definition of a senior. So I just thought that was a little strange. My second question is on the decision tree allocation, step 5A. Nonprofits will be prioritized over for profit. I don't understand the rationale for that. If then I don't know, I believe that everybody pays the same amount of money. Maybe they don't. If we're talking about revenue, why wouldn't we want for profit? If they're paying more than the nonprofits are paying, long as there's an equalization, as you say, of the assets and everybody gets their fair share, then I think we shouldn't discount our for-profit organizations or people that may want to take advantage of our facilities. I mean, we're in the business to generate some revenue as well, right? So I just worry about that. And when somebody purchases, my last question, if you will, Your Worship, my last question is, when an organization purchases blocks, they can't exceed 50%. So do they purchase it all up front so that we know exactly, like, for instance, pickleball versus, let's say in some municipalities, people have asked to take over the courts, like an association to run the courts, or an association to run tennis, or an association to run hockey, and we're not talking about that at all, are we? I just want to confirm that there'd be no association running any of our facilities. They're still run by the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Squire. Go ahead, Mary Ellen.
Thank you so much. To answer the last question first, absolutely. There's no sort of takeover of any of the town's assets. That's not a part of the policy for sure. I just want to assuage that concern at the get-go. We did discuss that option, though. It was something that was brought forward in our engagement, and we fully assessed, and we actually went so far as to look at other towns and municipalities that have taken that approach. And through our review, decided that in this particular case, based on everything that we heard from community, it did not make sense for the town of Quispamsis. Speaking to the senior piece, this was an interesting one, and I actually agree with you in that a lot of times seniors are defined as 65, but in reality, that age is subjective to many. The reason why we went with 65 is because it is the average age of retirement. And so when we're looking at the seniors piece inside of this policy, what we're thinking about with seniors is the timing, and when does the time kind of best suit seniors. And the reason why we wanted to define them as seniors in this case is that we tend to see if at the retirement age that folks can come in and start using recreation centers during hours when working folks would not be able to. And so we actually I think what we're seeing is a lot of those 55-year-olds, 60-year-olds still working, not all, but still at the majority mark working. And so that's why we wanted to make sure that those seniors that are under 65 continue to have access in time that is not necessarily non-prime time. So if anything, it actually kind of benefits those under 65 with having continued access in prime time, and those over 65, assuming that that's when we start to see the majority of folks are in retirement, not all, but the majority can then access that non-prime time or have priority for that non-prime time. And then in terms of the pricing piece, I do want to clarify that there isn't pricing as a part of this policy. And when we look at the nonprofit versus the for-profit in the decision tree, this is only specifically when we have two groups that are looking for the exact same time. So it's not to say that a for-profit group can't come in if for any reason other than if there was a specific time where a nonprofit group wanted the same time as the for-profit group. And the reason for that being is not to say that for-profit entities don't provide a great opportunity and different types of programming for community, but just that the nonprofit organizations really do exist to serve community. And so we want to make sure that they have access to ICE time. And then for profit, those that are doing it in the vein of accessing profit would be then a little bit less prioritized, but there's still many other factors. So if you had a nonprofit organization for adults and a for-profit organization for children, that could look very different. So it is a process to go through the decision tree, but ultimately looking at nonprofits when they're up against the same time slot as a for-profit and saying, well, if they're a nonprofit organization, they likely have a mandate that is serving community in a greater purpose than that for-profit entity, which is why we gave them that priority. It is something that we see in many allocation policies across the country.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions or comments? I don't see any further questions or comments. Mary Ellen, thank you very much for the report and for being here this evening with us to answer our questions. And I'm just going to take one last peek. I think Councillor Bigger and Councillor Thompson. Councillor Thompson.
Yes, Your Worship, I would move the council adopt the recreation facilities allocation policy as presented.
It's been moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question, Deputy Mayor Scryer.
Just on the question, I just want to be reassured that there's always room for improvement. There's always room for changing the policy, as making sure it's as flexible as possible as our community changes as well in their needs and wants. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, that's a good point the Deputy Mayor brings up. So to that end, I don't recall reading that there's a built-in time frame before review would be considered. Is there a hard-coded number of years, like a 3 or 5 year, horizon, and then it's open for review, or is it just done on sort of an ad hoc basis? I'm curious about that. Thanks.
Yes. So there is actually an annual review built right in. And we've recommended right inside the policy that there is a committee that's formed for that review that includes people that represent key facility types, town representatives, staff, council members, and that review, that committee is ideally no more than 10 people, but that they do look at the policy every year as the community continues to grow. And that's something that we did hear a lot as well, is that growth is happening, and we want to make sure that recreation continues to be accessible. And I think we risk, if we leave it to the 3 or 5 mark, that there is an opportunity for growth and some considerations inside of the policy. So that is built right into it, and it is on an annual basis.
Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to follow up with something that Mary Ellen had mentioned on one of my questions. And I just wanted, because it's just, I still worry, especially, you know, I mean, our budgeting is still ringing in my head, and we're talking about strat planning and offering exceptional services. And I just worry when I see in 5.3 that the returning user reallocation, it says, the allocation process for each sport in line with its seasonal calendar dates will be announced seasonally and will provide at least 4 weeks notice. So the original draft was 4 to 6, and now it's gone down to 4. And I just worry about the logistics of our recreational, kind of organizations trying to plan. And I know that you said that was, the least, it would be at least 4 weeks. But I still feel like, a policy, we want to kind of have some goals and maybe some stretch goals in there, especially when our goal is to have, offer exceptional services. And you had commented that, sports teams can bring forward their concerns, but again, that will be a year after we've tried it. And I'm just curious what we were hearing from them originally, because I just feel like 4 weeks seems like a very short period of time from knowing when you have the kind of the openings to the actual planning. So, that's the one piece that's kind of still sticking with me, that I just want to make sure that, again, a lot of these are volunteer organizations, that they have enough time to properly plan for our kids, basically. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. Did you want to respond to that, Ms. McAuliffe, or?
Yes, sure. And I think, I don't, this was not a major point inside of our internal discussions with staff as well. So I don't see it as being an area of concern if more than 4 weeks were deemed necessary. I suspect what we really will see will be staff at first trying to get this policy under their belt, because it's also quite a bit of an internal change that needs to take place as well. And I know that groups absolutely need as much planning time as possible. Being a volunteer coach myself, I know exactly what it takes to get all the times allotted. But what we really wanted to do was balance that, especially in the first year, with the ability to take the time to effectively roll out the internal processes for the policy. Now, that being said, as I mentioned, there wasn't much concern about the 4-week mark. I don't think it would be something that staff are really committed to in terms of it being 4 weeks. And I hear your point on the policy. I would almost be open to saying, having it as maybe we add in a guideline that we aim to have at least, 8 weeks notice if possible on the first year. And, ideally not having to go back to the drawing board on the policy itself, but maybe having that conversation with staff to say, we've got the at least mark at 4 weeks. We're really hearing that we want to have that sooner, and let's aim to have it as soon as possible. And we're really only going to go through two seasons here before we have a review. So what we may be able to do is have that conversation with the staff and say, make sure that they bring them forward as soon as they possibly can, so teams have the opportunity, or organizations have the opportunity to plan accordingly.
Thank you. I'm going to go over to Ms. Parton-Dixon, our Director of Community Services. Ms. Parton-Dixon.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to add to that conversation a little bit of context around timelines, specifically with user groups, because we really have 2 timelines. So we have our notice of 4 weeks. So, for example, we'll say that field requests should be submitted by June 1st, but it'll be probably earlier than that. But then there's a timeline for user groups. So we'll put out the time, and then we have to turn it around, but they need time to register. So that if you go too early, they're not going to know what they need, unless they're just going to assume, based historically, that this is what we'll need. So we have to allow the times for these groups to register, then see what it is they need for facility time, whether it be ice or tennis or softball or baseball. So I think it's important. That's why we try to keep it flexible, because we also don't want to put pressure on those groups. They can't make decisions too early because the registrations aren't complete. So our 4-week turnaround is, we will give them 4 weeks. Here's the due date. So there's really 2 turnaround times. This is when your request is due. Then there's a turnaround for when we will give you that back. However, because they're all volunteers, as you mentioned, we don't always get them on time. So I think it's going to be incumbent upon us to set those dates and then stick to those dates. So put in your request, it's due on this date, and when we have that data, we can make decisions, which then allows us to turn it around to you quicker. And we didn't want to put dates in the policy because we wanted that to be nimble in that way and not have specific dates. But our plan is to post those dates, share those dates on with our user groups via email, social media, what have you. Then they submit their requests. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Ms. Parton-Dixon. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you, Ms. McAuliffe from Forward Creative for being here this evening, and thank you for the input, Director of Community Services, Ms. Parton-Dixon.
Thank you so much, Your Worship.
Have a good rest of your evening. Hope you get rid of that cold.
Thank you. Me too. Take care.
Bye-bye. Next is public hearings. There are none. Minutes of the previous meeting. Councillor Donovan, please.
Thank you. I'd move that the minutes for the October 7th, 2025 regular meeting be approved as presented.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question, please vote. Councillor Miller. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you. Unfinished business, we do not have any at this point. And correspondence. I'm going to ask, do we have somebody in the audience that perhaps, if council would see fit, to move that up? 11A, so that we can have our discussion later, maybe. So if I have council's approval to that, okay, it's moved by Councillor Miller that we move 11A up to 9A. And it's been seconded by Councillor Thompson. On the question. Just give me your hands, please. Unanimous. Kirk, you're okay with that, right? Councillor Miller, you were good? Thank you. Motion carried 7-0. So under new business, we have 213 Hampton Road, PIDs 00249854 and 301100276 from Central Commercial, CC, to Integrated Development Rezoning Application, staff report from Planning Technologist. And we have with us a guest this evening if there are further questions. So we're going from commercial to commercial residential. And I will go to, I have to find your name here. There we go. To Ms. Jarvis, our planning technologist. Welcome, Ms. Jarvis.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to the council members. What is before you this evening is a rezoning application for 213 Hampton Road. And as the mayor had said, it's from Central Commercial, which it currently is zoned, to an integrated development. Integrated development allows more than one use on a lot, and what is being proposed for this lot are 3 buildings, 6 stories each building having a residential component, and 2 of the buildings, the 2 closest to Hampton Road, also containing some commercial space in the bottom or the main level. 50 apartments in the 2 buildings closest to Hampton Road, and the third proposed for the rear of the lot would have 58 apartments. And be strictly for residential purpose at the back for a total of 158 residential units. Currently, it's a vacant lot in the downtown core. It's 11,770 square meters, approximately 1.2 hectares. The lot is serviced by municipal water. However, it is not serviced by municipal water service. Did I say it was serviced by water? Sorry. It's serviced by municipal sewer, but not by the water. And because of the sprinkling requirements for this development, this project, the current iteration, does hinge on that water service being available down the Hampton Road. And speaking with the developer before the meeting tonight, they're just looking they're looking for a reassurance, a date, whether it be 2026, 2027, where they could have confidence that there would be the water service provided along Hampton Road. So we have the site plan. We did a review of it for parking. Currently, there's 204 spots available for parking. 126 of those are in surface. 78 of those would be underground, each building having 26 in an underground parkade. The bylaw does require 1.5 parking stalls per residential dwelling. And with the commercial, we calculated it with the one stall for every 28 square meters of commercial space, which is a typical calculation in our zoning bylaw. So it does calculate to 293 required parking stalls. So there would be the requirement for a variance for that. I did want to point out that the developer will be seeking CMHC MLI Select Program funding. So that is a program which is a mortgage loan insurance for every, you get a score, it's on a point scale. So he's proposing to be level 1 affordability. So that means that 10% of all dwelling units would have to be affordable as per CHMC's definition. And also, there's an energy efficient component as well. So the buildings would be 20% more energy efficient than what is required currently by the National Building Code. There would also be a requirement for a height variance. The bylaw currently allows for heights of 11 meters. 6 stories may exceed that, so I expect once we get the drawings, if council does agree to move this forward and drawings are produced, we'll then know what those variances would be for the heights of the buildings. It, of course, would need a review of the fire department to ensure that they could provide the fire sequestration that would be required in the event of a fire. There is a 3-meter buffer that is required for commercial or non-residential developments against residential, so the site plan does identify a 3-meter buffer. So it does satisfy the bylaw. There has been a high-level stormwater management plan submitted. It was reviewed by engineering. Significant stormwater will need to be provided, and it's been discussed, or in the briefing, it's been talked about doing that in the parking area and underground storage. There was also comments from engineering regarding that. The existing stormwater management system along Hampton Road in this area is at capacity, so there would need to be improvements made there. There does seem to be lots of capacity in the municipal sewer system in this location, so it wouldn't require any improvements for that. There was a concern with the siting of one of the residential buildings at the back of the lot. It does sort of bisect an area that we have identified through our predictive wet area mapping that does contain a lot of water. It's a large drainage channel through there. So I did speak with the developer previous to the meeting and said that they are already working on a solution for that. So I did want to point out that the municipal plan does support integrated development. It was introduced into the latest iteration of the municipal plan. And discuss that. I just wanted to highlight some of the other aspects of the municipal plan that policies, goals, and objectives that the council has stated in the municipal plan that would support this development. First one is from a town framework, the physical goals. Goal number 1 is to promote sustainable land management by promoting compact development, mixed-use development, and limiting suburban sprawl development through the provisions of municipal services. Goal 3 is to ensure there's a choice of dwelling types for citizens of all ages, incomes, and physical abilities, and that these choices are dispersed throughout the town's built environment. One thing I did want to mention and failed to earlier was there also is an accessibility aspect to this. I'm not sure if the developer is going to make any of the units accessible. That may be a good question for council to ask. 3.2.1 population growth to recognize and provide services for changing demographics of the town in order to retain a strong population base. Residential policy to promote and provide adequate lands for diversity of dwelling types and meet the needs of the present and future population. Policy 3 under residential policy, encourage higher density residential development, including dwellings per surface area and multiple units in one building and acceptable locations. Municipal services, transportation, and public utility. Objective 1, to provide adequate municipal services and public utility to meet existing future needs. If this request is approved, if the request to move this forward is approved by council this evening, it will require a public presentation. The public presentation also has a 30-day comment period available to the public. So once that's completed, I would bring back the file to council. We could set a public hearing date and refer it to PAC for their comment. My recommendation is there in the staff report, and I'm available to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jarvis. And certainly it's the growth that we are experiencing is certainly indicating that we do have a need for a varied development for various types of development within our community. This, of course, is just presenting to you the fact that there is interest in development on the Hampton Road. I think at this point, if you have any questions, that is fine. I would be cautious to say that showing an expression of interest one way or the other, or disinterest, please let's hear out the answers first. And when we have the public presentation, which is what the request is to move forward to a public presentation, then we will entertain those concerns at that time. Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. Jarvis, for your report and for a great review of that and number of important points to consider. I often drive by that lot, as I'm sure we all do, and often think, I wonder what will end up there, and so here we are, beginning the process of considering something that could, I think, potentially be a further solution to the housing availability question that we're constantly considering here around the Horseshoe. I don't know that we have any other integrated development in our town. Perhaps we do, but it intrigues me in the way that it's laid out in the, sort of, albeit very beginning stages of this potential project.
Yes, Councillor Thompson.
What I understood was this was just for information purposes, and we're just to go and set a hearing date. So
I'm
understood
about to make
that
that
you-
motion, but
Go ahead, Councillor Bigger, and
Yeah.
you may make your motion. Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
yeah. So just all that to say that it'll be interesting to see how this proceeds. And so with that said, anyway, I would make the motion that council direct the town clerk to set a public presentation date for November 18th, 2025, to be advertised pursuant to requirements of CPA.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question. On the question, Deputy Mayor Scryer.
Yes, I just have two questions. One that Ms. Jarvis brought up is if there will be in fact accessible units. That is one question, if you could find that out for us. And the other question would be, currently we're doing a Hampton Road survey and information from the public, and I'm just wondering where that played into the request, if there's been a review with the staff on that.
Thank you. At this time, we are not entertaining a Q&A. Certainly, Ms. Jarvis can take your questions and take them back to the potential development or developer at a different time. But tonight, it was simply to introduce to council the idea that there is a proposal, a potential proposal for the Hampton Road. So we have the information. It's been moved by Councillor Bigger and seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer that council direct the town clerk to set a public presentation date for November 18th, 2025 to be advertised pursuant to requirements of the CPA. So with that said, if you have a question, I prefer that that be asked at that time. I see lights flashing for Councillor Olson and Councillor Miller. I will go to that. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was going to second the motion or make the motion, whatever is available to me, but also in that motion, it says to refer the item to the Planning Advisory Committee for their written comments also.
There was a correction to that. Just there's a correction to that stuff.
There was a correction to that earlier on.
It should come up.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. Mine wasn't a question. It's more through you, Your Worship, to either CAO or Ms. Jarvis is pending the outcome of this discussion. I just want to make sure that we await that. It kind of ties on to Deputy Mayor. The final planning of the Hampton Road. I'm just cognizant of pending what happens here because it's 157 units. So that was my caution because I know we've had open houses based on stuff. So that was it. No questions on anything.
Thank you. I'll turn this over to Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor Miller. Thanks for the question. I'd encourage us to continue to consider both things and just follow the usual process for this application, but being mindful of the expectation that the developer has. So I think both conversations need to continue in parallel. Thank you.
Thank you. On the question, please vote. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you very much, Ms. Jarvis. Returning to correspondence, correspondence from Councillor Miller, regional costs allocated to taxpayers. You have that in your package. I am looking for a receive and file on that. The information has been discussed already. Councillor Miller.
Right, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'm not going to read the thing, and this hasn't been discussed. So what we've discussed is the committee is now going to ask capital to be removed, which we all agree with. For those that have been here the last 4 years or 5 years, you've seen my many presentations on what should be part of regional facilities and what should not be. So this request is, if you look at the two regional facilities that we have, currently regional facilities, that we have no say in for the legal. That's
Councillor Miller, this was discussed at our
no,
last.
it wasn't. Not what I'm going to ask, Your Worship. Excuse me.
You can get to the
point
question.
of order right now to you.
You can get to the question. I'm chairing the meeting. You can get to the question. I have already explained what we are doing moving forward, And as
On
far
capital,
as,
I'm not talking about capital. I'm talking about removing both of these from the regional facilities. Both the operating costs is $1 million a year. So we've talked about capital, we haven't talked about these being removed. So if you look at what they cost us every year, we've never formally asked for them to be removed. We've done, it's going to be removed, it might be removed, has nothing to do with capital costs. That's a whole different thing. So since they're doing the evaluation right now on all of this regional facilities, this is the time to say, if we really want them out, then we ask them to be removed. If you don't ask, it will never happen. That's totally different than capital. So I'm gonna make a motion that we, as a town of Quispamsis, ask the Regional Facility Commission to formally remove the Trade and Convention Center and the TD Center from regional facilities, to consider that. That's my motion.
thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Miller, seconded by Councillor Donovan. So on that, I am removing myself from the chair, Deputy Mayor. We do not have power to bring this forward. At our last meeting, it was discussed as far as capital costs are concerned. We are legislated by law. If we vote tonight to have those removed, we are asking the FRSC to break the legislated law that we have been mandated to follow. Yes, Councillor Miller.
I'm asking this to go to the commission that's doing the review. That was my ask, to have this removed.
But they don't have the power to remove that. That has to go through the government, through the minister. So we have a review underway. We have a new minister who has been in, as of yesterday, for 1 year. He has indicated that what happened in the past, up until October 20th of 2024, is now behind us, that we are looking forward from this day forward to see what kinds of changes he can implement as far as capital costs are concerned. This is all tied together as a package. As far as regional facilities are concerned, we can't separate the capital costs from say that this has to be removed or that has to be removed. I think out of respect for somebody who has been intimately involved with municipal politics over the last 11 or 12 years, I think it would be respectful on our part to give him an opportunity for him to come back to us and say whether or not the capital costs are going to be removed, whether this or that are going to be changed. I think we need to give that opportunity. Motion on the table. Yep, I'm just going to go to. The motion on the table asks Council to request to the Minister and the Regional Service Commission to formally ask for immediate removal of both the Trade and Convention Center and Harbour Station from the Regional Facilities Commission. And being the representative for the town of Quispamsis on that board, I can tell you that if we start meddling and meandering down that path, we may kibosh what the minister is actually able to do. Piecemealing this and taking this out and that out, this has to be looked at and reviewed as an entire package. And as I said at our last meeting, the time to hold someone's toes to the fire who's been in the job for 1 year is come the 2027 budget. So I would, as your mayor, I would say that this should not be supported. Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think in terms of the way the motion reads, you know, I think the intent is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Miller, but I mean, I support the fact that, you know, if if we're not vocal and we don't tell decision makers what we would like, then when they're making decisions, perhaps they don't know. And I think that, I guess from hearing versus the motion, but hearing what Councillor Miller was saying is, my interpretation of it is that he just wants us to formally inform the people that are doing the review and the people that have the power to make decisions, to let them know that as a municipality, we are not in agreement with capital or operational costs for those two facilities. And that I am in favor of. So again, I think that the motion is a little harsh in terms of immediate removal. So I'm not reading the motion, but reading or listening to what Councillor Miller was asking, is that he just wants us to advocate for our town and to make sure that the people that are doing the review and making decisions, or that can make decisions, like our MLA, know where we stand. And I think that for us to do a formal letter to just remind them that we're not happy, and still allow them to do the work that they need to do, but respectfully make sure that they know that our concerns are front and center, I'm in agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. I do have to say that, as I say, when I am at those meetings, I represent Quispamsis. I represent the requests that I have heard over and over and over from this council. I understand the frustration. I live it when I go to 3 and 4 hour meetings each month. But I also understand, and I think it is so important for us to realize that we have someone who, again, is intimately aware of the fact that this region is the only one that has capital costs. And if we start taking apart what is being asked, is it remove capital costs? Is it remove this or remove that? We need to give that person time in order to respond to what is on his agenda at this point in time. I have confidence that our words have been heard. For the past number of years, Councillor Miller, you pointed this out many times, that nothing's been done. Nobody's listening. We had a provincial government that wanted to get government reform in place, and this was a part of it. Now we have a provincial government who is willing to listen to the cries, to the requests, and to how we can improve regional reform in our area. So again, I would certainly caution that we start picking away and asking and telling the minister, take this out, do this, and do that, when there is a study underway. Like, how can you do a study when people are saying, start piecemealing this? I think it's a very dangerous path to follow. Deputy Mayor Scryer.
Thank you, Your Worship, and to Councillor Miller, I certainly do, and we all do, the frustration plus. I guess my question in my mind is, seeing that there has been an announcement that there's going to be a formal review done, and that we've been asked to participate in the formal review, then that provides me with optimism that our words will be heard. And it might be more than this. Once we dwell into this more, we might say it's not just these two. Maybe there's something else that we need to bring to their attention as well. And so, just to the mayor's comment, I don't like to piecemeal it, and I would like to see us, as a council, sit down and look at the whole regional facilities, whether that includes, the Harbor Station, Trade and Convention Center, and the Imperial Theater, and the 5 of them all together, and have a full discussion on those regional facilities and what we're happy with and what we're not happy with. And I believe, I do believe that we have been heard, and I'm hopeful and optimistic that the process will follow accordingly to make it the best result for Quispamsis that we can get.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Olson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this particular point in time, I support the mayor's direction with that explanation. I support that. I think we have to give a little bit of time for that to happen. I think that there's much discussion that has taken place over the last few number of years. They know how strongly we feel about the needs, and I just feel that we should give them that time if that's what's required.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. I'll go to Councillor Bigger and then to Councillor Miller.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And to the Deputy Mayor's point, who's to say for sure how this will go? Perhaps this and more will become the reality on the other side of whatever study is ensuing. The House returned today, and so whatever is about to occur is going to begin from here forward. And of course, it would be completed by spring, of course, of 26, with implementation to follow accordingly. I just wanted to offer a couple of little points of clarity here. I think the motion should probably indicate the Minister of Local Government, and it's TD Station, not Harbor Station. So just wanted to point those out.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Worship. I can't see the motion, so let me. Oh, no, I got it now. So that is not what I asked. I've asked, because they're having a review, because we have only formally asked to remove capital, because even the minister himself, when he was sitting in our CAO's chair, was saying, get rid of the TED Center, or Trade and Convention Center, because the last review said that the Quispamsis Qplex could be in there and our representatives removed it, because all these things are happening and because TD Station is now a rink. That's all it is. So now we've got the Qplex, now we got the Quispam or the Rosse Center, we've got Hampton. That's exactly what I asked is, since they're doing a review, and since we've been talking about this forever, and I've done a presentation, the Qplex is way more of a regional facility, or just as much, if not more, than the Harbor Station, or TD Station, sorry, back to the other one, is that is exactly why I'm asking this question, that since they're doing a review, that we tell them exactly, because if we've only told them we just want capital removed, which it should be gone anyways, because I mean, for those few people that are watching this, if you look at that letter, it'll show how astronomical the capital is. It's out of control, so that has to happen. And it's not just because the province needs to fund more so we pay less. It should be gone. So if they want to help us with the Qplex, well, then give us half too. But my point is, since they are having a review, since it is our time to tell them what we would like to see, this does not happen, is to, I know you're a representative and I appreciate that, but if it's the will of council to also tell them, hey, we don't want these two in regional facilities anymore, then if we don't say, shame on us, then we're gonna get hit with this $1.7 million every year on operating, which is $255,000 a year on operating. And we've got no help for any of our stuff. So my request is specifically that since the review is coming up, that I would like that if they would know what our wishes are for this review. If they come back and say we're not removing it, that's a whole different discussion, right? So, but this is an ask, and it's not about capital. That's why I said it's not piecemeal. We've been talking about this forever. We've had discussions with the regional facilities. Well, let's change it with 70% instead of 50%. Let's see if they'll give us credit for the Qplex. We've talked about this time in, time out. And so this is, everybody here has got 5 months left on council. You're going to be voting for, or not running, is, to me, we need to tell them now this needs to be removed. If we don't, shame on us. Then they're saying, great, send us the bill for 1.7 million every year, and we're going to pay the operating because, you know, if you can tell me how the TD Station is more of a recreation or regional facility than the Qplex, then great. But nobody has been able to tell us that. We've even voted to try to get a credit on that. So all I'm asking them is to look at this and know our intentions. If council, the majority of council doesn't want to do it, that's fine. That's your vote. But if you do want to do it, it's an ask to see where you're doing your review. These two things don't make sense for us anymore. They made sense back in 1999 when there wasn't a Qplex, there wasn't the Hampton thing. We didn't have everything else going on. You know, Trade and Convention Center was the thing in town. Now very few go. The Hilton negotiates with City of St. John. We have nothing to do with it. Now, City of St. John negotiates with TD Station. We have nothing to do with the legal contract. It's now the Avenir Center is the place to go. It's not TD Station. So my request is to see council's wish to whether these two units should be presented in the review, whether we want them removed or not. So that's my request. It's not an immediate removal. I know it's not going to happen right now. We're stuck with what we got now. Has nothing against everything else, but this is our time to do it. If we don't do it now, we're stuck again. So that's my whole comment. Thanks.
Yes.
So,
Thank you, Councillor Miller. So council requests to the minister and the Regional Service Commission to formally ask for immediate removal. Whoops.
For removal during the review, with the review that we would like to have this removed.
But once again, I will point out that we are legislated to move forward with this at this point in time, that the review has no political power at this point. It will be incumbent upon the Minister of Local Government to make decisions appropriately. We've already requested certain things of the minister. I think you pointed out capital costs were one. And as much as you might feel that these are not tied together, it will tie the minister's hands if we do start saying, this has to be done. When we start demanding these orders, that opens up a whole different discussion with the minister. And yes, I am at those meetings. You may disagree with that, Councillor Miller, but I do feel that in order to give the fulsome study that is required for him to have everything in the pot and then start negotiating, because it's going to be a negotiation. It's not going to be a done deal. Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to members of council. Obviously been listening attentively to the conversation here. I think there are two chapters to the story. One is capital and one is operating for TD and Trade and Convention. I would offer, from the time I've been here, that the advocacy with respect to capital cost removal has been front and center, and that I have deep respect for the Minister of Local Government and his willingness to listen to that argument. And I'm confident that it's being actively considered a resolution to the capital cost conundrum that many of our communities find themselves in. I do think that we do need to provide Minister time and latitude to do what he needs to do in order to resolve that piece, that chapter of the story. And I think there is a risk to the relationship by introducing new or more at this point. That said, chapter 2 of this story is that there is a regional service review being undertaken. And one, if I'm reading your intentions well, Councillor Miller, one option would be for council to decide, and I think that's what you're seeking, council's approval or direction on whether or not operating costs for TD Station and the Trade and Convention Center should be raised as an agenda item in our participation in the regional service review. I recognize that's your interest, Councillor Miller, but I think I'm wanting to make sure that the mayor has the will of council with respect to that matter. So it might be that might be the subject of the conversation tonight, or to table it for this time. It's not an emergency. It's important, but it's not an emergency, and it could easily be something for consideration to bring back at our next meeting, just to have that opportunity for folks to give that thought. But to my mind, that might be the opportunity for exploration of council's wish to have removal of the TD Station and Trade and Convention Center operating costs embedded within our discussions as the regional services review is undertaken. I will offer that I have consulted with other communities in the Fundy region, and there's recognition that certainly at the inception of the commission and as regionalization happened, there was discussion about operating costs for those two facilities, but it has not been a subject of recent discussion in the communities that I've spoken with. So thank you, Your Worship, for just offering context and maybe an option.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Deputy Mayor Squire, please.
I'm fine, Your Worship. I don't need.
Thank you. Councillor Donovan, please.
Thank you. I would say that my opinion is that I do agree with Councillor Miller. Um, you know, opinions are great, everybody has them, but I mean, mine is that the general public would be shocked to see what we're paying right now for the Regional Service Commission. I think that's a fact-based assumption on my part, but I do not see any issue in us issuing a letter, giving this review process you know, things to work with. You know, yeah, I'm sure they're going to find some things, but this is what concerns us, or this is what may concern us, depending on how this vote goes. But I don't think there's anything wrong with what Councillor Miller is suggesting. We're elected to make these decisions, and that's what we'll be doing tonight. So let's go for a vote.
Thank you, Councillor Donovan. And as far as being shocked at the cost, those costs are reviewed every year in our budget and have been since 1998 when operating costs were included. There was another point that you had made. I'll have to go to Deputy Mayor Scryer.
Sorry, you're.
The other thing, we have to establish relationships. I am in the midst right now of establishing relationships with the federal government and the provincial government, like never before. I've been on council now for the past 14 years. Never in that 14 years have I had the relationship that I have now. That could be undermined by what is being presented here tonight and what's being asked. And I'm not willing to support that. I will do what council's wishes, but I really feel strongly that we can undermine a relationship that could evolve rather than one that we're going to put a lid on with one fell swoop. So I will go to Ms. McGuinness.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to get some clarification on the motion and make sure that I have it correct. So the original motion, I don't know if it's a combination of the two, but this is the second motion that, and I'll read it. Council submit concerns regarding removal of both the Trade and Convention Center and TD Station from the Regional Facilities Commission to the RSC review.
I think it would be asking removal of both, to be precise.
Regarding asking removal?
Just take regarding out.
Concerning asking. Got it.
Submit, or you can take concerns, council submit removal of both the Trade Convention Center and TD Center regional facilities. Yeah. To the RSC review.
Thank you, Ms. McGuinness. Deputy Mayor Scryer, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. It came back to me. I just wanted to piggyback on the CEO's suggestion that there's two chapters here, and that maybe what I would prefer in my mind is to see council come together on the whole discussion of this regional review. And let's put our heads together on what exactly is it in the regional review that we want to talk about. Do we want to talk about social development, what our role is in social development when it comes to paying for mental health and providing all these services? Do we want to talk about the housing? What is our role as council that we want to talk about there? Not just the Regional Service Commission. Big part of it, absolutely, but there's more to it than that. And I won't use that word again, meal, but that's sort of my idea is, like, if we're going to talk about it, let's talk about the whole review and submit our suggestions to the commission or whoever's doing the review as a whole, and say, these are all things that have come up in the last 4 years when we talked about mental health. How are we going to deliver that service? When we talk about affordable housing, how are we going to deliver that service? You know, when we don't have water, how do we deliver housing? So those are, I would rather see us put a package together and present as a whole, as council, as to all our concerns for a review that's going to take place. But the one thing I would like to have clarified is the timeline on this review. Are we talking a year from now, 2 years from now? If not, I agree with Councillor Miller, like something needs to be said in a timely fashion, that we're not waiting for 2 years, 3 years for something to be implemented. So I would support a motion where we do a complete review, but I'll leave it to Councillor Miller's motion right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Schreier. I believe the review is going to be done or completed early in the beginning of the year. I have a meeting coming up this week, and I will send an email out to notify everyone as to when the actual date is, if that is available. Last comment, Councillor Donovan.
Thank you, and I do respect that. The issue is I feel like we have
Councillor
been,
Donovan, is this new information or we're on the question?
yes. Would I be able to?
You may continue.
Okay, thank you. We've just been talking about it for a long time. So in my opinion, I feel like we're talking to a wall. That's why I'm saying that I think we should support this. You know, yes, we can move forward as a council to discuss a variety of other things, but is it going to take us 6 months to agree on things to move forward? Is it going to be done next week? Is it going to be done tomorrow? When is it going to be done? Because we just seem to be kicking things down the road. I mean, nobody has to agree with that opinion. That's my opinion, but I guess we're going to see in this vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Donovan. On the question, Council submit removal of both the TD Station and Convention Centre from the Regional Facilities Commission to the RSC review. Again, I really feel that we will be harming the relationship with the provincial government at this point in time. My recommendation is that we hold off on this. So I will ask now that you vote. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Thompson,
It didn't come up.
are you for or against the motion?
Against.
And Councillor Buck.
The vote has been taken. Motion defeated 3-4. Thank you. Moving on, correspondence from Model Farm Road residents. Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Worship. And I know that in Council's package, there was recent correspondence from residents of the Model Farm area. That was follow-up to previous presentation to Council, which I believe occurred 2 or 3 weeks before I came to the town. And then there was some direction at the time for staff to follow up and make arrangements for consultation and remediation with the homeowners. I have had a recent conversation with the homeowners and have agreed to help facilitate next steps. So just by way of an explanation there on those next steps, I've agreed to go out to site. I know many of you have been to that site already, but to verify that there haven't been any recent changes that would alter the plan moving forward. And then the week following to meet with the homeowners and our engineering team together so that they can see the plan for remediation, which is one of their main concerns, which I'm sure you picked up on their correspondence, just for an opportunity for them to observe and comment on the proposed plan, and then work forward on scheduling the remediation, which at this point will be in 2026, and the homeowners are aware of that. So with that, I'm satisfied that we're on this and have an opportunity and a pathway now to resolve for the homeowners. But I should certainly take advice or any further questions or concerns from council on the matter, knowing that the homeowners would reserve the right to present to council if they're not satisfied with the outcome.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. I think Councillor Bigger, no?
I did, but then I didn't, so go around, come back.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Scryer, go ahead.
I was just going to move that council direct the CAO to proceed with the plan as presented.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Bigger on the question.
My mic.
Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Watson. I guess my bigger concern is kind of what happened. Like, in terms of back in 24, council had agreed to kind of have this remediated. The residents felt it was going to be fixed. And it sounds like then, the next time they heard about it was like they wanted to have it signed off. And I'm just wondering, more so for continuous improvement, have we kind of figured out what happened? Was it just kind of a breakdown in communication or something, just so that in the future, because we're very fortunate that the homeowners actually reached out. I just wouldn't want to see this again happen somewhere else because, something got missed. So if you can comment on that, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Councillor Luck. Great question, and the short answer is yes, I am confident that we're addressing the gap.
Councillor Bigger, please.
Yeah, and so it was prophetic when I turned my light off, because in fact, the question that Councillor Luck asked is essentially the same one I had. When I spoke with the Downies, they, expressed concern that they believed they had a commitment by us to confer along the way. And when Bob Downey by July did not hear back, he proactively reached out to say, hey, anyone out there? And heard nothing until a request was made to sign off on the proposed work. And so I think that's a legitimate concern. I have no comment on whether it's the right course of action in terms of the work to be done. And I'm glad to hear that. I know that the CAO has been working closely with the folks here and moving the issue forward. But I hope that it's just a one-off situation of, that sort of thing. But unfortunately, that occurred. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. And as Mr. Watson indicated, any gaps have been addressed and will be on an ongoing basis. And he has already made connection with the clients, and they will be in contact over the next while. So on the question, Council directs CAO to proceed with plan as presented. Please vote. Good. She's good. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. The item number 12 is reports. Item 13, business arising from Committee of the Whole. We have to resume into Committee of the Whole. Item number 14.
Just, there is one item under business arising in regards to the consumer fireworks.
Yeah, but we haven't completed that, I don't think, did we?
Yep.
Did we complete that? Oh,
Yep.
okay. My apologies on that. I apologize about that. Councillor Bigger, please.
I was just going to make this motion on 13A. I think I'm required to read it. Yes. Yes. As per motion approved at the Committee of the Whole meeting, Council rescind the request of staff to prepare a plebiscite for the 2026 Quispamsis municipal ballot regarding fireworks, instead allowing Councillor Bigger, whoever he might be, to subsequently present a draft resolution for council review and approval, which can then be forwarded to a subsequent UMNB zone meeting for presentation at the 2026 AGM, lobbying the provincial government on behalf of all New Brunswick municipalities as how best to deal with fireworks throughout the province.
It's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Olson on the question.
No questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. No. Please vote.
Okay.
Fell asleep at the wheel here. Motion carried 5-2 with the nay votes being Counselor Bigger and, oh, sorry, Counselor Donovan and Deputy Mayor Scryer. So, looking for adjournment, wishing everyone a good rest of their week. We do have to return to Committee of the Whole. And certainly, we will see you here again on October the 30th from 5 o'clock till 7 o'clock for our operating budget deliberations. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. It's been moved by Counselor Olson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer for adjournment. All those in favor? Motion carried 7-0. Good night, everyone. Have a good evening.